Right.
Welcome, everyone. This is the Rebel Love Show. I am Rob Rebel, and today the co-host, as usual, is Joel Valenzuela. What's going on, Joel?
Not much. Just living the dream.
Yeah, I know. You're living the dream while I'm here stuck in the status-occupied county of Cook County in Chicago. Anywho, you had an exciting weekend, and I had a depressing weekend. So how about you go about first? What did you do in Boston this weekend?
Well, actually, I was in Easton, Massachusetts, just a little bit south of Boston, and I was there at the Students for Liberty conference. There's a few of these all around the country and the world, actually. And the local one in Boston, the Free State Project, had a table there, and I was the guy running it. So I went there, showed up early, and just set up a nice little table, and was spending all day just spreading the good news about, why don't you move just a little bit further up this way.
Did you get any signers?
Yes, we did. We got a few signers.
That's awesome. I remember I saw the Free State Project post a picture of you there, which was kind of cool.
Exactly.
I'm glad you got some signers. That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
it's interesting to see from the reactions of people. Anyone who'd heard of the Free State Project was very enthusiastic. It wasn't just like, oh, okay, I know what that is. It was like, oh yeah, that. Oh, I mean, that's awesome, man. It was always something very enthusiastic. I guess we were really touching people.
Were there people there that didn't know about the Free State Project?
There was a few casual, a few students who just, were kind of new to the whole idea of liberty and just like, what's this thing about? And then, got to talk to them about it and got no negative responses at all, which is good.
Well, that's awesome. Well, I wouldn't imagine you would from a location like that.
Well, yeah, there were a few people who were questioning, like, well, why don't we just move down to Texas? And, Texas is a good place, too. But I had a bunch of things to rattle off. For one thing, Texas gun laws, contrary to popular myth, suck.
Yes. You can't even open carry a pistol there in Texas.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. People do that all the time around here. And the other thing is, it's just hard to affect any real change. And
well, it's one of the most populated states in the country. You're looking at like, what, 30 million people, something like that, more? Exactly. I mean, New Hampshire has, what, 1 million population? So it's a numbers game. You get, now I want to kind of the Free Talk Live mantra here, but it's a numbers game. Like, Free State Project, yeah, we have, coming up, we just passed 15,000 signers. There's already, what, 1,400 people there, 1,500 people there?
About 1,500 people.
About 1,500. In a size of Texas, 1,500 people to 30 million people is a drop in the bucket. 1,500 active people in a place like New Hampshire that only has roughly 1 million people is a huge difference. Still small, but a lot bigger percentage-wise going in. And you get 20,000 people there or more, and plus the natives working with you as well. You have, it's a numbers game. Like, you have to have some sort of momentum in numbers to go against status. Like, you can't just imagine a few thousand up against tens of millions. But it was only 1 million. You actually have some power, some sway, some notoriety. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. And one of the things that I was telling, one of the big selling points is having the community all in one place really helps a lot for everything. Like, when it's just you and your buddy and a few of his buddies that you say, dude, what would be so cool if we did this, if we protested that, if we built that? And that's such a hard thing to get anywhere with. But when you have a whole bunch of people in this certain location, then it's all of a sudden you can just instantly do something. For example, just tonight there was a Bitcoin meetup, and there was a good two dozen people there. It's always a very big presence, especially like in a small local bar. It's like, whoa, there's a bunch of people taking up the whole back area talking about Bitcoin.
Man, I wish I bought more Bitcoin like 100 FRNs ago, man. Have you been watching Bitcoin prices?
Yeah, they've been talking about it all night.
It's going over $200, man.
Yeah, I had none. I just spent my last.
The Bitcoin I bought, I gave you? You spent
Yeah,
all that too?
that got me pretty damn far. That's for sure. Because prices went up, and
I,
then
yeah, I know they went up since I like. Well, that's like this whole flag right here. This whole flag. This when I bought this, it was like I think I paid. I think it was at the time. It was like Bitcoin was like 60 or 70 bucks, and I paid point 0.2 Bitcoin. Uh, at that time, I thought that was a good deal. But every time I look at this, and then I look at like on my phone, I literally have one thing I love about Android phones. I have widgets at the bottom of my phone on one home screen where I have a bunch of different exchanges and it's showing the prices. Like Mt. Gox right now is 224, though I'm not a fan of Mt. Gox, but everyone seems to use them as like the main pricing gauge. But
well, actually, doesn't a blockchain wallet actually show you?
yeah, you log into the blockchain wallet, which by far is my favorite wallet because it's one thing I like about it is you can sync your online wallet to the wallet on your phone, and has a passcode on it too. But I like that because it's technically on both. I don't know. So far I have to say I'm a fan of that wallet out of the different wallets I've tried. They should sponsor the show, by the way. But no, yeah, man, Bitcoin. Every time I see it go over 200, it hasn't gone over 200 in 6 months. And I'm thinking to myself, why didn't I buy a couple $100s of Bitcoin when it was 20 bucks when I first like got into Bitcoin? And I bought like $150 or something like that Bitcoin just to play with it, kind of like to learn what it is. And I bought some stuff online and whatnot. And as soon as I bought stuff, like spent most of my Bitcoin, that's when the prices like went sky high, And I like it going high, but sometimes I feel as if I don't want it to. I want it to stay around $100. I don't want it to go any higher because I want it to stabilize at that so it's used more so as a currency than like something to invest in. Does that make any sense to you?
Exactly, because when people are holding on to it, then it's not going to get very much circulation.
Well, yeah, I mean, people are just going to buy into Bitcoin because it's a fast way to make a buck, which isn't a bad thing. But it is if you want to use Bitcoin as a currency. Like I want to use Bitcoin instead of FRNs. That's what I want to do. But sometimes it's hard to do so when it jumps from $110, $120, a month and a half ago to now being $224. So sometimes it's hard to actually, no one's going to want to spend Bitcoin when they know it's going to go way up in value. So what's the point?
Maybe just paving the way for Litecoin. Because first, if we're going to buy into any cryptocurrency, it's going to be Bitcoin. And then now that Bitcoin is just going through the roof and no one's touching it because they're holding on to it, then maybe if this thing can work, then let's get a hold of Litecoin and actually start trading with it now that we know that cryptocurrencies can work, online-only cryptocurrencies. And then when that happens, it can be like silver to gold. The gold, you just have like the big pile of bars under your bed, they're right next to your old shotgun, and then you use actual silver to trade.
I'm all for competing currencies. Anything that's not backed by a central bank or government, I'm down for. Anything that's decentralized where the market gives it value, not someone doesn't have a printing press. That's what I'm about. Anyways, I want to talk about my run-in with the internet checkpoint that I came across last week. That's been affecting a lot of people in the liberty movement.
Papers, please. Papers?
Yeah, papers. First off, fuck Facebook. I hate it. And, I'm back on it because, unfortunately, most people still use Facebook, and the vast majority of the population still does. Anyways, my story. Most people in the liberty movement don't use their real last name or in their first name. I use my real first name, but everything else isn't. Obviously, my name is Rebel, but that's what I go by. That's what I choose to go by. Everyone knows me in the liberty movement by that. And a lot of people also use different names. I was using Rob Volunteers Rebel on Facebook and everything else. A lot of other people were using Volunteers as their middle name as a way to kind of advertise what it is, because a lot of people don't know what that is, so they see that in someone's middle name all the time, they'll Google it or something. It's kind of a way to advertise what that ideology is. Well, a lot of us in the last couple of weeks have been hit with Facebook. Now, Facebook came out and they hit me with saying I needed to change my name because that it looked like part of my name wasn't real. And I've been using it for a year like that, but nonetheless. So I took out voluntariness and I put the V just as my middle initial, thinking that would do the trick. And a week later, I got hit with literally Facebook.com/checkpoint. Shit you not. And they wanted me to submit an ID, a state-issued ID, in order to verify who I am, because Facebook has a policy where you have to use your real name. Now, I defend Facebook in that it's their website, it's their service. If they want to issue that policy, that's their prerogative. It's fucking bullshit, but that's their prerogative. If they want to do that, that's them. But me, I'm not about to submit papers, submit a ID to use a website. I hate the fact that I even have to have an ID. I have an ID. Like, I don't even believe in identification, but that's a whole other rabbit hole, another whole conversation to begin with. But I'm definitely not going to show ID to Facebook. Now, I was given like 3 options. I could have bailed on Facebook completely, which I plan to do at some point, hopefully. I don't know. I could have submitted my papers or simply made a new account. I made a new account, so I kind of compromised. I lost everything. I'm rebuilding like all my 1,500, 2,000 friend list. I'm rebuilding all the groups I was in. Now we have an issue with the page for this show. I royally screwed up and didn't have you as an admin, and I was the only admin. Now, do you think I should submit my ID just to get the adminship back in that page and then deactivate my old account, or should we create a new page? Like, what do you think we should do about that?
Well, there is currently no admin active for the page because you're on it and you're just not an active account. Let me see if I can get to them first and say, look, I'm the only guy who's active creating content for this. This guy is gone. You killed him. This blood is on your hands. So give me the page or shut it down. And
yeah. Well, it sucks. We build a bunch of likes on it too. I wanted to use it as an outlet for this, but it is what it is. I don't definitely want to. I can't submit an ID. I can't do that, man. I can't do that.
Yeah. No, the principle of identification is not necessarily a bad thing, in that if you have something that defines you as you for whatever purpose that might be. Now, there is something very wrong with compulsory identification or centralized state control identification. That's the bad part.
Yeah. No, I hear you on that. It's just one of those things where obviously, I mean, we know the NSA and everything like that. The government tracks everything we do. They know everything about us and whatnot. But I don't want Facebook to set some sort of precedent where, it becomes normal for people to show a photo ID to use a website. You know what I'm saying? And now, mind you, I know other people created fake IDs to get their accounts back, but they're still submitting an ID to Facebook, even if it's fake. And I don't know, morally, I don't feel like I should have to do that or willing to do that.
Yeah, it's an awful thing already. And that's one of the arguments with the drug decriminalization is by less hardcore libertarians is, well, we'll just tax and regulate it. And think about it now. In order to buy alcohol, no matter who you are, basically, unless you're like, this old and you got, a walker with the soccer balls on the bottom, basically they're going to card you. They're going to make you show your state-approved ID, papers, whatever, in order to get a drink. Right now, if you want to buy weed, you don't really have to because it's not really legal. You just go to some guy and say, smell the little bag. You're like, yeah, that's good stuff. Here you go, and then you go. And there is a part of the whole legalization of anything, of any practice or lifestyle or economic activity. The part of the thing we have to keep in mind with that is it's not legalizing stuff is good in a certain extent because we think, okay, well, we want more of that. But the problem is once it's legal, now it's under the government umbrella. Now it's part of the system. And so we definitely want to legalize everything possible. But
everything should be legalized. Nothing should be regulated.
Exactly. We need to just think about it.
Or taxed, for that matter.
Yeah. And so at some point, it might be decriminalized to, use currently legal drugs, etc., but maybe not completely legalized sale thereof or whatever. As long as there's no federal crackdown, as long as there's no government force and actual persecution of people doing this, we don't care what the law says or if you can do it legitimately or not, because we don't buy their perception of legitimacy.
No, I completely agree. I mean, who gives these people that neither one of us have ever met the right to tell us what we can or cannot sell and take a percentage of our sales for their own purposes?
Mm-hmm. Well, like a friend of mine was just telling me yesterday about, for whatever reason, because his private practice, private business's tax filing has been, he's filed basically not paid, had to pay taxes for a very long time. Unfortunately, because of that, because a lot of his business came in places that were not accurately reflected on the tax statements, his credit score suffered as a result. And so because he had, I guess, income that was not reported to the government, his credit score suffered. Tongue tied up here. His credit score suffered. Now, the problem is, well, what if you don't want to get into that whole credit system? What if you just want to stay out of that? And that's when you just realize, okay, it's actually, you don't have to worry about all these other things if you're just living out of the system. And living out of the system used to be suicide, but now it's becoming a lot more feasible.
Oh yeah, I mean, especially with cryptocurrencies and everything else, it is becoming easy. It's becoming easier. I would say it's becoming easier and harder, but depending on how you look at it. But yes, there are ways to get off the system. There are ways to avoid taxes and to do work that doesn't involve the government knowing what you're doing. I wish I can live completely off the system. Sometimes, like, I'll have an argument with like a conservative statist about illegal immigrants. It's like, well, they're illegals. They're undocumented, and I'm like, I wish I was undocumented. Make everyone undocumented.
Yes.
Why is it someone else's responsibility to know who we are?
Well, funny you should mention that, because when I was living in Phoenix, my roommate for the longest time was an undocumented immigrant. For years I lived with this guy. And there was a lot of things he could not do because, like, for example, air travel was just out of the books. Whenever we go for a road trip, we'd have to make sure it was not one of those with a DHS checkpoint on the way over.
Oh, that's right. So, they got checkpoints like 100 miles in from the border down there, don't they?
Exactly.
That's
and so they have to make sure there was that little cat and mouse thing. Owning a car is technically illegal if you are technically illegal. And so in order to own one, it had to be registered in someone else's name. And if a cop pulls you over and asks for a license, you just basically got to accept that they're going to impound the car. Now, interestingly enough, the title loan places have made a killing off of illegal Mexicans because they've offered to what you do when your car gets impounded because you don't have a license. You go to the title loan place, and you take out a title loan, and so they put a lien on the car and repossess it from the government, and then they give it back to you. So the title loan places get it out of the slammer. Anyway, so all these things that make life more difficult, but then at the same time, he would just leave and go to work or go find jobs or whatever without having to worry about criminal records or resumes or anything like that, any kind of no tax forms or anything. He just goes someplace, does something, and gets money out of it. And just everything he did with his life, he just do it and not worry about where the government stands in this whole thing, not worrying about his official status. And so it can be a really liberating life if you can do that. Just there's some huge barriers to your life, based on what the government still manages to control.
Yeah, I mean, you get off the system, there are some things you can't do, especially anything that requires an ID or credit and stuff like that. You kind of have to live by cash and or Bitcoin. But you can't really do some things, which, you know what, that's I understand why people make that sacrifice, for people that aren't, technically illegal, which is, I hate when people say that, because it's like, how can a person be illegal?
And that's something that's really where a lot of conservatives become big government statists.
Yeah.
Just on that issue.
No.
Because here's the thing. If this is actually a government, even pretending for a sec, if you pretend government has legitimacy, it has legitimacy because it is a government representative of the people of the United States of America. Now, if you're a person of the United States of America, if you've been living there for, I don't know, 10, 15 years, and your government, why is your government that's supposed to represent you telling you you can't exist? Why are you an illegal person? If you're living there, you pay the taxes, unfortunately, you abide by the...
Under duress.
Exactly. You do everything, and this is your government to protect you, but no, you're not. I don't know, your parents came there just like a little bit too late, and then, there's some technicality, so now you're illegal. It's like, I don't know, that's like a child telling his parents, saying, I'm going to evict you from your house. It's like, well, who the hell are you, kid? But
yeah,
the reality of the situation is not representative government.
It's a huge, I'll be honest, a lot of things conservatives say, I still kind of agree. I mean, all right, for those that don't know, I'm a recovering constitutional conservative, obviously recovering statist, and and I'm a recovering patriot, and the whole thing is like, you get to a point where they're all about liberty and freedom for them. And it kind of ends at that. It's like, well, I'm for Americans to be free. I'm not for well, no, they're illegal. They got here illegally. I'm like, well, so what? Who cares? I mean, if you believe in the free market and freedom, why does an imaginary line written on a map by people long since dead matter? And the only reason why it does matter is because of the statist system that we live in today. The tax burden that some free riders get. All right, fine. You can make the argument that a bunch of illegal people are coming in and they're draining the system because of it's costing too much. Fine, end taxation, problem solved. That way, no one will get a free ride. But that's well, we can't end taxation. That would stop the revenue for the state. And how would the state function? We'll figure it out. I mean,
maybe it won't function. Maybe there's nothing wrong with that.
It functions well now. Most people that make the argument, it's like, well, we have to have a functioning government. It's like, we don't have one now. I'm sorry, I shouldn't say we. They don't have one now. It's not my government.
It isn't there right now. Yeah, I noticed that conservative double standard with a lot of things. Like, for example, with business. Business is great, but free trade agreements? No, it's like you can't have these pacts with no North American Union and all this kind of stuff. And then the other thing is,
it's free. You can have free trade as long as it's something that we're okay with trading.
Yeah, or outsourcing. It's like businesses should be free from regulations and all this kind of stuff. But if they want to go and build a factory in China, well, no, they can't do that. That's terrible. It's like the free market's great until it sends jobs to China. Right, well, so?
we're all, you know what, we're all human beings on this rock called Earth, and it's like so much. This goes for both conservatives and liberals in the United States. And this is pretty much for anyone that's a statist. Is they worry about the people that live inside these boundaries as if some sort of like, well, you know, these are the people that I care about. I care about everyone on the planet, and I want to treat everyone equally, and everyone is the same. Like, you know, people argue like, well, we have too many people living in this country. There's not that many people in this country. Yeah, there's populated areas in certain, like New York and Chicago and LA, but I mean, there's a vast amount of this country that is not populated at all, that we can definitely support a large population.
Yeah, like, have you been to Arizona? There's some people in Phoenix, and then you just drive for hours and hours, just abandoned. All across the West, there's basically no people.
Yeah, but the reason why is because the feds bought most of the, well, they didn't buy it, they stole most of that land. Most of that land, and if you look at a map and you look at like national parks and protected forests and stuff like that, a majority of that area cannot be sold. It's owned by the federal government. The federal government owns like something like 60 or 70% of the West.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible. And even if you go, though, in places that are, even places like in the East Coast, like New Hampshire, there's not a lot of people in New Hampshire. And even though it's a lot more condensed than out west, there's bits of town and just lots of forest and woods, and it's just most of the world. There's some places like India has way too many people, that's for sure. Because in the cities, it's literally 10 feet between each person or less, the whole city over. And out in the countryside, you're never out of eyesight of another person. You never don't see a person, ever, in the whole country. And so that's clearly too many. Some parts of China are that way, but most of the west of China is basically unpopulated. Other than that, the whole world, there's tons of growing room, tons.
No, I completely agree. Anyways, did you see, change subjects going, did you see that article, I forgot where it was at, about the police department in Columbia, South Carolina? You know what I'm talking about?
No, I'm not.
They basically, they they have a Facebook page, and someone posted on their Facebook page after they made a comment about how, oh, here, I actually got it right on my phone. They posted on their Facebook page that, let me see here, that they arrested someone for possessing pot. And this guy named Brandon Whitmer goes, he commented on their post, and this guy's a keyboard warrior for sure. He goes, maybe you should arrest the people shooting people instead of worrying about stoners that are not bothering anyone. It's going to be legal here one day. I agree with him. Now, the Columbia Police Department comments back, Brandon Whitmer, we have arrested all the violent offenders. Thank you for sharing your views and giving us reasonable suspicion to believe you might be a criminal. We will work on finding you. And it has more likes than his comment, too. Yeah, the police basically going after people for free speech on their Facebook page.
Yeah, I actually did see that one before. That was...
How do we, as like liberty-oriented people, convince the majority of the population that the police are, for the most part, nothing better or nothing worse, I guess, whatever you want to look at it. They're no better than an organized gang. It's just that somehow they have this authority to steal from people and to kidnap them.
Well, that's a question for the ages. But the big thing is replace them. Because think about this. It's like you go up to someone and say, you know, doesn't that breathing can kind of suck? We can't wait till we stop breathing. And they just look at him like he's insane. Like, what are you talking about? We all have to breathe. That's what we do. And then there's just this crazy dude over there with all his bitcoins and all this stuff like that, all rattling about, oh, we can't breathe anymore. It's like, fuck that guy. But that's what we seem like when we're talking about the cops. This, it's like, yeah, well, do you have a better idea, jackass? That's the thing. We need to show the better idea.
Well, isn't there a what's the name of the organization in Detroit that is trying to do just that? Was it like a threat management center or something like that of Detroit, where they're basically paid security, but because they have so many clientele or whatnot, I'm probably shooting on my ass on this, but I remember reading it, where they are going around the neighborhoods of bad parts of Detroit. Because they have so many people that are paying them, they're able to, as goodwill, and for just to build up good customer loyalty and support of the community, are going around and acting as security for the community and pretty much trying to prevent any crime from happening without using any violence. I mean, obviously, if they're attacked, they're going to, but they don't have arrest powers or anything like that. But they're trying to be a dispute resolution organization. But the police hate them. I'm sure the police can't stand the fact that they have competition right there.
Competent competition.
And that's a good thing, though. Like, what would happen? And I mean, they can get away with that in Detroit because Detroit has like no revenue anymore, and they've laid off a lot of police and stuff like that. So I mean, they can probably get away with doing that. But imagine like a normal city of America, like a bunch of people getting together, putting on uniforms and painting up their cars and driving around acting as the police, and they would offer their services. They would put ads out. What would the local authorities think of that?
Well, I'm sure they would just shut it down. They think it's like a violent game.
They probably would. They would think, well, but that's my whole point. It's like, just if the police are a violent gang. I wish that wasn't the case. I wish the police actually had, showed some sort of good, morals and whatnot. I mean, just Google police brutality, and you'll find thousands of hits of police being brutal to, common people. I mean, I don't know about you, but I've never had a good interaction with a police officer, even when I was a statist. Like I've never been arrested, thank God, but I've never had a good interaction with a police officer.
Yeah, that's kind of the point. They're not trying to interact with you to make you happy. They're just trying to do whatever they need to do to make you unhappy. That's kind of.
Well, it's also to show that their authority. What really gets me upset is like public schools where they have like I remember when I was in public school, and I still have my shirt from 5th grade, my Dare T-shirt. The only reason why I kept it because it now fits me better now than it does then, because I'm also a recovering fat guy. But that's a whole other story. But I remember a police officer coming into that class saying, don't do drugs because we'll arrest you, and you don't want to be in jail for having drugs, so don't do drugs. It's like pretty much just nothing more. It's like an indoctrination of showing intimidation that they are the ones in charge, and B, it's showing that this is what happens to people that don't do as they say.
Mm-hmm.
But I can understand why a lot of people can't stand public schools, because just that indoctrination alone, like I still remember it as if I was in that class. Like that was like, man, I remember at the time thinking like, oh, I gotta do these are adults and they're wearing uniforms. Like, I have to follow what they're doing.
Jackass in a monkey suit. I mean, it's nothing special, nothing magical.
Yeah, but that's the thing. People give them some sort of, I don't know, some sort of authorities. Like, well, they put on a shiny badge, so they must have extra rights.
So yeah, and they got those teardrop tattoos and the big loose clothing, and it's the same thing. It's like you ever see in those old like Viking movies, there's some chieftain walking around with like skull like necklaces and stuff that he sees like the hot shit. It's the same thing. Humans just like adorn themselves with things like that to make themselves feel tough. And that's the other thing with the whole police situation. It's not so much. It's not only okay, we can do their job. They're not necessary. It's also about fighting back. And a lot of times it's just, well, okay, once they invoke their authority, we can just bitch about it, and that's it. The thing is, it's easier to ask for forgiveness and permission.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they go do something, they curb stomp someone, and then they just run away, and then, all right, even if they get found in the wrong, then almost nothing happens. It just keeps on going. And no cop, when they're thinks that they're going to suffer any negative repercussions from stepping out of line, there's someone who mouths off to them, and they go knock their teeth out, and then the worst is happens. Okay, they get some paid leave, and then people who recognize them in public might hate them, but other than that, they're fine. And there's a very powerful. It has a very powerful effect. If you have to think twice before visiting violence on another person. Because if you don't, it just happens again and again and again. But now, if he's thinking, okay, what if this guy what if this guy's going to fight back successfully? Then all of a sudden it's like, not quite so much. And we're not at the point where we're saying, oh, let's just go out and start gunning after the police or whatever. But
yeah, I consider myself in between Larkin Rose and Ian Freeman on that type of stuff, where I'm like, I'm on like both sides of the fence when it comes to self-defense and when do we shoot back and when it's okay to shoot a cop and all that jazz. Speaking of, what's your take on what happened at LAX?
Well,
the TSA guy being shot with
tried to stay out of it as much as possible because it's just. But my take on that is, why did it take so long? I mean, not like.
I'm surprised there has been violence earlier. I mean, I'm not an advocate of violence, but I'm not surprised it happened either. I mean, the TSA are horrible, pedophile goons, in my opinion. I mean, they're the one. I fly usually a couple times a year, and I can't stand it. Like, it feels like you're going through, like, it's worse in my opinion than what the like asking for papers in pre-World War II Nazi Germany. I mean,
yeah, it's awful. Now, I've been through, and very, very, very many times in my life, because of my dark past, I've been through scanners at presidential events, as in to go in to see the president himself. And it's a little simple metal detector, and you just like keys, and that's it, and you just walk through. And that's it. That's the U.S. Secret Service does a great job keeping the president safe by having a little simple metal detector. Just, okay, we don't want anyone bringing guns to the president. That's it. Now that means anything beyond that the TSA does is just absolute nonsense, because any argument, shoe bombs, other things like that, they could bring to a presidential event, chuck a shoe bomb at him, boom, there he goes. And it has nothing to do with security. It's all dehumanizing.
No, exactly. I mean, we're going down the whole conspiracy theory road here, but no, I agree. It's the TSA are nothing more than there to show who's boss, and it's basically trying to domesticate the population. And unfortunately, most people go along with it. I remember, I wish I was recording this, but the last time I went through the TSA, I was running late. I literally got in a car accident right before I left for my trip. So like I was already running late. I had to get a ride. It's like last minute, and I made it to the airport with like minutes to spare. So I'm running to get to damn TSA checkpoint, and I go through, and this is at the time. Last time I had gone through Midway, they didn't even have scanners there at the time, or no, they had like one, and they would randomly pick people to go through or whatnot. I'm like, okay, whatever. And I didn't get chosen, which thank God. But this time I did, because they picked everybody. Well, not everybody, but basically every line had a damn scanner, like every single line. It wasn't just one scanner. It was like 10 scanners. And I remember there was a family in front of me, and this TSA guy, and mind you, this TSA guy looked like your stereotypical TSA guy. I shit you not. He looked like he was in his late 40s, had a huge pot belly, and looked like a pedophile. And he was like, no, you got. He let this whole family not go in the scanner and walk around it. And then I come up and say, well, you have to go through the scanner. I'm like, well, you literally just let the 3 people in front of me go through. It's like, well, this is for security reasons. You have to go through. It's like, well, what if they were carrying a bomb, and you just let those people go onto the the plane with a bomb? They didn't go through.
Pocket right there. Look.
Well, it's my whole point. It's like, either everyone goes through or no one goes through. Like, how can you let these people go through? So I'm like, no, I'm like, I ain't going through. I'm sorry, I'm not going to do this. I wish I was recording on my phone. I really wish I was, because afterwards it took him forever for them to take me to the sexual assault area of the checkpoint where it's in the open or whatnot, and I literally laid into him about how this is unconstitutional, and I'm not constitutionalist, but I'm trying to act from the state's point of view. And I was like, a cop on the street wouldn't be able to do what you're doing right now. I don't consent to this. You're doing this under duress. This is worse than what the Nazis did. So we're trying to protect you, and you don't have to fly. And I'm like, bullshit. You don't have any authority under the Constitution to even do this. There's a thing called the 10th Amendment, and I literally made him. I was like, I don't know how you sleep at night. Do you get off, feeling up strangers in an airport all day long and shit like that? I mean, I was really rude to the guy, but I'm sorry. If you work for the TSA, get a new fucking job. I don't care if you need the money.
Yeah.
I can't stand anyone that does that line of work whatsoever, because it's not the government's role to provide security. It's, if you do believe in the small government, it's to keep you free. And even then, I don't think that's the government's role to begin with. It's your job to keep yourself free. But man, I'm very bitter, and I very much hate the TSA with a passion. So if they hear this, I probably won't be. I'll be on a no-fly list soon. But I don't condone the nut that killed the TSA guy. I'm not surprised by it, but I don't condone it. But at the same time, I think that might be used as a reason to go after people in Liberty Movement, because there's notes he had about the NWO and fiat currencies and hatred of the TSA, and that's a lot of stuff that people in Liberty circles talk about.
Yeah, that's always going to be. A friend of mine, who has been in jail before, he mentioned that, when you're inducted or whatever you call it, when you go in, they do a whole strip search, cavity search, everything, and the guards doing it, they're not enjoying it. They're not all like, oh yeah, they hate it as much as you do, but they're forced to because of their job, and it's not. Again, it's not because they want to, it's just because the higher-ups decide that should be part of it, because they would totally want to treat you like an animal to make you feel like one, to put their place above you. It's like
It's like they're making a whole country nothing more than a prison.
Exactly, and it's, to start getting into the whole prison thing too much, it's like the prison rape thing is not, a lot of it is about power. It's about, look at me, you're nothing, I'm everything. And that's what the government does to a lot of people with these little things like TSA, that they're not gaining anything from the extra things they just, all they're gaining is pushing us down.
Hey man, Obama's nothing more than the prison warden.
Exactly.
Anywho, all right. So earlier today, I decided for the first time in over a decade I had time to kill. I turned on the TV. I turned on NBC and watched the nightly news.
I'm really sorry, but you need a hug.
Maybe it's the fact that I haven't watched. I really don't ever watch TV live anymore, ever, for years now. And whenever I do watch TV, it's like something that's DVR'd or like on demand with like very little commercials, if any. And it's pretty much all I do watch. If I do watch TV, it's just like a drama like Breaking Bad or something, and that's it. I don't know what I saw worse, man. The commercials or the fact that like all the statism, like they had Kerry in at Kerry was in Egypt talking about how he's support of the military in hopes that they can restore democracy. Like, why would you want? First off, I don't want military control. I don't believe in democracy either. I'm like, and why would we? First off, we shouldn't. They shouldn't be supporting democracy. They should be supporting liberty and freedom. To me, it just seemed like it was nothing more than like rah rah USA and support of democracy, which is nothing more than majority rule, and they get to steal whatever they want because the majority decided it.
Mm-hmm. And you find a lot of that with the nightly news and the generic population. There's a lot of that government is a given type thing. It's not so much they're not defending government. They never get to that point. They just that's a given. We have to this. This is just well everyone knows that. It's like how are we going to save Social Security and Medicare with this new whatever, again, pick your year, pick your crisis, whatever. How are we going to save Social Security? It's like, why the hell do we want to save it? No, because we need it because it's there. It's like always, it's there. That's the biggest argument is it's there.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Howard, that's the whole thing against like people that were against slavery before the Civil War. It's like, well, who would pick the con? Because that's what's there. Those are the people that are doing it. We don't have a system in place. We'll figure it out down the road. Doesn't mean that we have to enslave the entire country to pay for something that some of us don't even want.
Exactly.
We'll figure it out. We don't have to point guns at people to figure that out. Anyways, I got kind of a family emergency I got to take care of in a couple minutes, unfortunately, so I'm going to have to cut this short with you. Where can people find... Oh, first off, before I even let you go, get your YouTube video up. I'm going to keep bitching at you every episode we do until you get some content on your channel, all right?
Got a backdrop, figure it out, etc.
All right, get it done. Where can people find you at?
Well, thedesertlinks.com. I keep on publishing articles a couple times a week. They keep on getting more and more hits on the Victory March there.
It's a great site, by the way. People check it out.
Yeah. And Twitter, there's my little Twitter handle down there at the bottom, at the Desert Links. Maybe right there.
Yeah, there you go.
And I'm on Facebook, Google+, Pinterest.
But they get the fuck off of Pinterest, man. What are you doing? I mean, yeah, I'm on Instagram, but shit, you're on Pinterest, man. Instagram, whatever. I like photography.
You got to see what people are doing, right? Here,
I suppose so. You got to reach out for people everywhere.
Actually, Pinterest has been very useful for me because I've had quite a nice big pin board of pictures of New Hampshire titled "The Free State." And whenever they ask me about it, I just throw my pin board right there. Look at that. Look at all that cool stuff. Don't you want to be there? It's been very useful.
All right. I can't knock you for that. Anyways, you can always find me at Volunteer Rebel on Twitter. I got a custom URL for my Google Plus account, plus Rob Rebel, which is awesome. I don't know, I geeked out by it because I'm a tech geek too, so I thought it was cool. I'm also back on Facebook at facebook.com/RobVRebel. Our URL for the show is facebook.com/The Rebel Love Show. Hopefully we still keep that if he gets the admin on there. Otherwise, we might make a new account for that. I'm not sure. Anyways, hopefully we'll be on back again next week, Joel. If that's cool with you.
Exactly.
All right. Peace, guys.
Peace.